Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Football Inc. How you doing? I hope you're all happy and healthy. It's Friday. Happy Friday. Johnny's, I don't know if this is a picture that Johnny's taken or if it's just
No,
he's having an evening in hell. I don't know what it is. It's a very deep red sunset. Johnny, I'll come to you in a second to find out what that is and how you're doing. But guys in the chat, you know what to do. You know what to do. Smash the like button. If you enjoy the videos, generally hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and drop that comment section thick and fast. Let us know how you're feeling about the various topics today. We've got a lot to talk about. Turkish football in chaos has over 1,000 players. I mean, we've spoken about Turkey ad nauseum on this channel. I don't know where else you're going to go in the YouTube community to find the stories that nobody's talking about, but everybody should be. We talk about Turkey, we talk about Saudi Arabia, we talk about them all, and no one else does. But these stories are breaking news, and they're important. They are important because they give you a glimpse into if it's happening there, what's to say it's not happening somewhere else, like right here at home. Either way, guys, please do also find us on Football Inc.'s Spotify account and Apple Pods and Amazon, all that stuff. You can search for Football Inc. or you can drop into the description where you can find our links. Please give us a follow and a rating over there. Johnny, how are you, my man? Good to see you, buddy.
I'm all good. Yeah, I mean, listen, on most channels, it's eat, sleep, repeat. On Football Inc., we're always trying to dig up a story that we think you might be interested in. So, look, we've been talking, as you know, Sean, for a long time about corruption in Turkey, going back months. Where did all the money come for, all the spend? We're talking about corruption. Then we had the referees. Now we've got this. Yesterday we were talking, as you know, about Axel Tsebi suing Man United and the implications of all of that. At Football Inc., what we tried to do is to bring you something out the ordinary, as well as obviously the usual topics, and especially in the international break, which we, on the whole, majority of us find extremely boring, and there's a shortage of stories. Corruption is the gift that keeps on giving. And I suppose the big story is like Cristiano Ronaldo getting sent off and having a strop and having a cry about the fact that he might miss the start of the World Cup. But other than that, this is the big story. This one about the Turkish players, following on from, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago, Sean, where we did the 351 referees and officials out of 571 had been charged or found to have betting accounts. One such official had made 18,000 bets on games. To see this is now extended. Should we applaud, Sean? I'll ask you a question. Should we applaud the Turkish FA and the Turkish officials for coming straight out and banning 1,024? Is this after the horse has bolted and it's all been exposed and now they're covering their asses? What would you say?
Well, let's have a look at the story first, shall we?
Yeah.
The story's wild, mate. It doesn't seem like as far as the numbers that they're putting out there from the story about a month ago to this one today, it doesn't feel like too much of it is involved at the very highest level. But there are people that are involved in it at the highest level. But in terms of the vast majority of these extraordinarily high numbers, the most of them seem to be from sort of Division 1 or like whatever the the sort of the second and third tiers of football. But let's have a quick look, see at the story, and then we can drop into it.
Just to say, because that story there, you've got 102. Yeah, or is that 1,000? Yeah, it's got 102.
1,024. 1,024.
All right, banned, because at the top it says 102, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, they've screwed up. Oh they've just fat fingered that. And this is the BBC. The BBC. I don't even know why I use the BBC anymore, mate. If you guys are into politics, we should know not to trust the BBC.
Should we read? Should we read a proper one or the BBC? What do you think?
Listen, if it was something really important, like, I don't know, tax affairs or political corruption, I'd be reading something other than the BBC for sure. But I'll give them the credibility on this one, just because I'm hoping that there's no need for them to lie too much. I would assume that's just a faux pas, a fat finger. They missed out the 4. But again, it's sloppiness from them. Turkey's Football Federation has given bans to 1,024 players from its top 2 divisions for betting-related activities. The punishments were of varying lengths, ranging from 3 months to 12 months, and involved 25 players from the top-tier Super League. They include 2 players from Galatasaray, Erin El Mali and Metahan Baltachi, who were handed bans of 45 days and 9 months, respectively. The rulings by the Professional Football Disciplinary Board, the PFDK in Turkey, became final after the 7-day appeal period expires, or become final, sorry. The disciplinary action comes after the TFF suspended over 1,000 players from its professional leagues on Tuesday as part of an investigation into betting. Following the move, matches in the 3rd and 4th divisions of Turkish football were postponed for 2 weeks. We can't trust any of them. I want to make it clear, is the quote from Al Mali, one of the players at Galatasaray that was accused or that has been found guilty. I want to make it clear that the reason my name appears in this file is because about 5 years ago, a bet was placed on a match involving my former team without my knowledge or involvement, Al Mali wrote in an Instagram story. Since that day, I have had no connection whatsoever to betting or this issue. Galatasaray said the club would meticulously follow the sensitive process. The scandal initially hit the headlines on the 27th of October when the president of TFF said hundreds of referees were linked to betting accounts. The same guy claimed that out of 571 referees working in Turkey's professional leagues, about 60% of them had betting accounts, and 152 were actively placing wagers. Fucking hell. He said the group included 7 referees and 15 assistants from Turkey's top 2 divisions, as well as 36 classified refs and 94 assistants from the level below. Listen,
they're saying
it's destroyed the credibility of Turkish football, hasn't it?
I mean, they're saying that the TFF, the Turkish Football Federation, also announced that while Superliga and League One will continue as usual, fixtures in the 2 divisions below that have been postponed initially for 2 weeks. Perhaps the best known is 25-year-old Erin Emali, a defender for Galatasaray, who's been in all 4 of their league games. But this didn't start with the referees. This didn't end with the players, Sean. This started with the campaign to get Jose Mourinho out of Turkish football.
Right. Well, at least our awareness of it did. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, our awareness of it, right?
The leaked text messages that suggested I don't know, alignment or cohabitation between the Turkish Football Federation and mafia figures in Turkish football that said, we have to get this geezer out of our system.
We have to get him out because he's questioning.
You know what, Johnny? You know what, mate? For one man that has always cried victim to be finally given the smoking gun to have been proven right, he now will use that forevermore and say everything they said about me in the Premier League, in the Serie A, everything else, there was all one big giant conspiracy because they didn't want the special one being special, you know?
Yeah.
And he's right. He might be right about Turkey. I don't know if he's right about the rest, but he cried victim all the time, didn't he? He always played this "it's us against the world" thing. He did it 100%. At Chelsea very successfully. He motivated those around him. And on this one, he was bang on, mate. They conspired against him.
I mean, he complained about some of the outrageous refereeing decisions, like outrageous. He was complaining about, he was highlighting them. And the more he highlighted them, the worse it was getting for him. You know, they were trying to get the ultras to turn against him. They tried everything. And they were saying he's delusional. There's nothing wrong with Turkish football. And then they leak all the emails, which clearly proved that they had a mission to get rid of him out of Turkish football because he was exposing the corruption. Then we got the referees making the bets. 300. Imagine 371. Well, look at the upshot of one guy making a bet. But imagine 371 referees and officials in the Premier League and League One making bets or having gambling accounts, and one making 18,000 bets. Then add to that the fact that we're having to ban 1,024 players, even if it was
Johnny. Let's just also remember, right? Because what we're worried about here is not really Turkish football. Right? None of us are watching this in all likelihood are that concerned with Turkish football. We're worried about whether it's more prevalent in areas that are more difficult to maybe diagnose. But you have to consider that also it was only about 3 weeks ago, mate, that the entirety of American sports was suddenly exposed for the same shit, right? NBA, NFL, NHL. It's all like all of a sudden everyone's under the spotlight, and bit by bit by bit, the onion layer is being peeled back, right? And everything. And if it's happening in Turkey, you're thinking, well, okay, that's it's Turkey, right? Like probably a little bit kind of secondary world sort of thing. No disrespect, but you understand what I'm saying. If it's happening in America is fairly close. It should be fairly close to the Premier League level in terms of scrutiny for those sorts of things, and it's clear that it's rife in that environment as well. Johnny, my point is, mate, I'm someone that spends hundreds of pounds every weekend betting on outcomes in the Premier League. I don't know if I'm betting on rigged games anymore. It must be happening. Maybe not on a team level, but it must be happening to some degree on a player level. Maybe not at the very top where the players are paid so much money where it's going to be very difficult to be influenced by some random geezer somewhere, right? But maybe in the Championship, maybe in League One, someone gets a tap on their shoulder, a goalkeeper gets a tap on the shoulder, or a striker, and they say miss a penalty or smash the ball out into touch in the first 6 seconds. All that shit that we know happens. I'm certain. I am as certain as I could. If I had to put all of my life savings or my life on the line, someone held a gun to my head and said, "Is there corruption that's happening in the betting markets within certain levels of English football? Yes or no?" And if you're right, you live. If you're wrong, you die. I would say yes, there is, and I'd take the chance because I'm that certain that it's happening. There's so much money in the game. I can't believe it's not happening in the UK.
I think the only way to eradicate it, Sean, is to get rid of these. How many corners? How many tackles? How many yellow cards?
Simplify betting. Yeah.
Win, lose, draw, score prediction. Right? Minimalize. Look.
Yeah, the micro markets offer the access, don't they?
Micro markets, right? Look, for example, Champions League final. You're ready for the game. PSG kick off, and I thought I was watching rugby. They kick the ball straight into touch. There's a throw in within 10 seconds of the game kicking off. Right? And
their argument is we can just press easier from the throw-in. Right?
It's the new tactic we're practicing. Right? Okay, says who? Oh, okay, so now it's a precedent. Okay, it's a precedent. So what happens? Do the betting companies have to offset that, a throw-on happening? Is that a new bet? Right? Because then, have you noticed, other clubs started doing it initially at the start of the season.
Can you even make that bet on a Bet365 or a Betfred account? I don't know, William Hill. I'm not sure if you can, but there must be markets somewhere. Johnny, I said this to you before, mate. I'm sure I said it on this channel. Like about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a different iteration of UFC called X Fighting.
Yeah.
And I think I told you this story. A mate of mine who lived in Thailand, an Australian guy who was into all that. He reached out to me and said, "Can you place some bets for me on some outcomes in the X Fighting game, in the X Fighting account?" I was like, "Can't you do it?" He said, "No, there's no betting in Thailand or whatever." I said, "Yeah, sure." He sent me some money. I put it on for him. He said, "I'll let you have 75%, 25% of the winnings." And I was like, "How do you know it's going to win? And why? Like, what are we doing here?" I went ahead with it, but I had to go and set up an account with some random, like low level, like really, weird betting accounts. Turned out all of the bets that he asked won, And I found out afterwards it's because the fights were pre-recorded, so he already knew the outcomes before the money was placed. And I was saying to him, "How much do you want me to put on for you?" And he was like, "How much can you put on?" I was like, "What are we doing here?" And I just it never crossed my mind that would be a thing that you could actually do. But it like that the bets happen, that the fights happened on the Friday.
Yeah.
But in on the betting account and on the ticket, the bets were happening on the Saturday. But he already knew the outcomes. And so, like, I put the money on, and then they got shut. The bets got shut down. That the accounts got shut down once it all figured itself out. I never made a bean out of it, but I didn't know until after the fact. And I was like, "Mate, I am not doing this for you ever again. I am not getting involved in that shit, bro. Like, that's how you get your kneecaps broken." What are we doing here? Taking the piss out of me, you know?
If you're look, I allegedly look, I think, you know, players like Tonali and all these others that have been accused, and there's many more that we don't know. Ivan Toney, there's a whole host more. When you're doing these micro bets and you're playing the game of football and you've got a bet on X amount of free kicks or X amount of tackles, and if you're the player that's laid it off and you're a gambler and you're an addicted gambler, you're counting it out in your head. Paul Mercer was an addicted gambler. You know, how many bets did he lay allegedly during his career?
Yeah.
This went on back in the day, but the difference was back in the day, they didn't have the micro bets. They didn't have, I'm going to bet on how many corners and free kicks, multiples. I don't know if you saw that one with Paddy Power the other day where the guy had 1.5 shots, 1.8 saves, all this, all the way down to the end. And he thought he'd won everything. He had about 9 different things.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. No, actually, it was bullshit. It was offside. Yeah. So he made a good video and it went viral, but actually, all of those saves were after an offside decision, so they didn't count.
Yeah.
You know? But I'll tell you what I would say though, Johnny, is it wouldn't surprise. I don't know how we've gotten to betting away from. I mean, it's all part of the same story.
No, but it's all part of the story.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if people like Tonali, people like Tony, people like Paqueta, those guys in the Premier League that are caught up in all that stuff. Do you really think that they're addicted to gambling, or do you think that maybe that someone's had a tap on their shoulder, someone's done someone a favor, someone owes someone in a dark environment, you know, for whatever else, like, you know, you've got yourself in a bit of trouble, you've asked for someone to sort it out, you then owe them a favor, they say, here's the favor, you got to pay us, you need to do something on this, you know, that sort of shit. I wouldn't be surprised, mate, if it's like, you have to remember that for every crime, for every law that's outlawing something, it requires the crime to be a thing before the law exists to stop it, to prevent it. And I wouldn't be surprised. This is a story that should be on the Conspiracy Channel, by the way. But I'm pretty sure that there's a hell of a lot of very sophisticated people that are doing these things. Like maybe in Turkey, it's a little bit unsophisticated. Maybe it's all a little bit simple over there, and they all thought they would just like no one would notice. But I'm sure it's happening at every level to some degree. I'm sure there's a lot of players, just like in stock markets, man. Like I did my dissertation at university on something called the efficient market hypothesis in stockbroking, in trading, in financial worlds, which essentially is this, like, it's impossible to disprove this notion that if all information that is a needle moving piece of information about a company is available to everybody at the same time, which is it's supposed to be, then there's no ability for any individual to be able to outperform the market on their trades consistently. You might do it once or twice, but you can't do it forever, because if everybody's working with the same information, then the market always knows, and you can't be right better than the market all the time. The reality is, Johnny, that there are people out there that outperform the market every year. Look at congressmen, for example. And so the efficient market hypothesis only works in a world where there's no corruption. And I think it's exactly the same thing in sports, right? Where there is muck, where is money, there's muck. Where there's muck, there's money. You know.
I was just going to say, guys, just to clarify, because there's always a good do-gooder who likes the absolute detail. So 1,024 players, right? Not that it makes any difference, have been referred to being banned, right, from across various Turkish football leagues have been referred to the professional as part of the massive betting scandal. Out of those, 102 from the top 2 divisions have been temporarily banned. So, okay, 102 are the temporary from the first 2 divisions. The remainder are from the remaining divisions. And something, Soul Sniper Gaming said something funny. We should, the creators would want Ivan Toney. Can you imagine signing Ivan Toney and Paqueta for our sponsors BetMGM on the back and getting them together for a photo at the signing?
You know what? It's actually fascinating, Johnny, because let's extrapolate this conversation away from Turkey for a second, right? Well, actually, let's keep it at Turkey for the first part of this question for me to you. My question to you, Johnny, is: does the ramifications of this corruption, does it spoil this movement? Like the amount of money that we've seen flow into Turkish football over the last 8 months, 12 months. We don't understand how. We've looked into it, right? We haven't. Well, I know that what's her name? Ulrika Johnson's asking us all the time. Have you looked into Abramovich moving into Galatasaray, etc.? Haven't covered that stuff yet, for what it's worth, but we will.
Russian money, there, allegedly.
Say again, sorry.
Allegedly, there's Russian money and Middle Eastern money that's going there via investment funds. So whilst on the surface it looks like, just investment companies, you'd have to do deep dive to look at the makeup of said investment companies to see who's really behind it. But we know that Turkish football normally keeps open 2 weeks after the transfer window closes, to allow them time to pick up the debris of players who haven't been picked up, who have got contracts, to try and get loans and what have you. And then we see instead this year players going out in abundance out there, choosing to go to Turkey rather than go to Italy. Unprecedented. Victor Osimhen going out to Turkey, and suddenly these clubs having an abundance of money that was not there before. It's not like Turkey suddenly.
Not all of their ability to attract those players can be explained by the reduction in income tax for the footballers, right? It does explain some of it, but it doesn't explain all of it. They are still subject to some sort of PSR, FFP rulings. And you look at, I think it was it Fenerbahce? I think we spoke about this Fenerbahce in the summer, right? Fenerbahce have the same revenues last year as Leicester City. And yet they were signing ridiculous talent players. Like they had 115 million euros of revenue, something like that. I forget the specific detail. That to me, and to you, Johnny, I remember we talked about it. It was obvious something weird was happening. My question to you, Johnny, is does all of this corruption, all of this stink, this kind of like, you can't trust the refs, you can't trust the players, you can't trust if you're a manager, you don't want to go out there, right? Because, you do the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing, you act the wrong way, suddenly you've got the mafioso on you that's saying, let's get rid of this geezer. Like problem. Do you think that this is going to be a catalyst for a bit of the top end of football players, maybe like a Victor Osimhen, those sorts of guys? Are they going to sit there and think, it's time to get out of here? It's a bit too hot for me. Not hot as in the temperature, but you know what I mean?
Well, I think someone like Victor Osimhen, who's on a deal which I still can't understand how they could have structured it. It's a Saudi oil deal. That's the sort of money that's being offered. I think some will look to go. It can't be good for Turkish football. What's my main concern?
Do you think John Duran will go back to Saudi, or do you think he will end up coming back to the Premier League?
Maybe he'll come back to the Prem. My question is, how much of this is prevalent in the Premier League? Look, there isn't a day that hasn't gone by as football fans when we asked the question, right? The referee was terrible. Since I've been growing up as a kid, he must be a homer. He must be a Leeds fan. He must be an Arsenal fan. He must be a West Ham fan when you're playing them. How could he have given those decisions? And people say, oh, shut up with your conspiracy theories. But now, as I've got older and, you see all this stuff that's happening, I truly do believe that, there needs to be more background checks on suitability of referees, whether it's private investigators or what.
Well, how about the Michael Oliver story?
Well,
right? Not only has he been pictured wearing Newcastle United shirts, right? We know he got paid money by Saudi Arabia and by Abu Dhabi, right, to go out and to get whatever for those consultancy or for those one-off games. Do you know he's never? I think I saw a video on this on Instagram. I've definitely liked it to be able to use it later. I forget it though off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure he's never given a penalty against Manchester City. And I think he's also given fewer. I think the team. I think this is right. I might be wrong on the specifics. I'm pretty sure he's given fewer yellow cards against Manchester City than any other team, and I'm pretty sure he's given fewer red cards than. Sorry, it might not be that he's never given a penalty. I think he's never given a red card. And then the person that made the video showed like 9 or 10 different examples of like high boots and elbows and all sorts of things that would be obvious red card offences that Manchester City never got when he was refereeing. And it's just all of this stuff. It leads you back to the same conclusion, mate. That everybody is corruptible. Everybody. Not just football. Everybody, right? Scientists are corruptible, and then you got to trust the science, right? Well, I don't trust the scientist.
Look, China, Russia, they'll find your weakness. They'll find your Achilles heel, whether it's exposure about an affair or debts or whatever it may be. Do you remember? I'm trying to think who it was that used to referee, and there was rumours that he was a Spurs fan, and he was refereeing a game at Spurs. And we scored a goal, and he went like this, in the video. It looked like he was celebrating the goal. I'm trying to think who the bloody referee was now, if anyone in the chat can remember. And there was a clip of him sort of like mistakenly sort of going, yes.
I don't remember.
For the goal.
How long are we talking about?
5-6 years ago. I'm trying to think of the referee now. But look, I'm sure most of them, on the whole, are honourable, but for me, I've got no time, absolutely no time at all. I don't give a shit about their boredom. Mike Dean, that's it, Christopher. Thank you very much. It was Mike Dean. Look it up, celebrating a Spurs goal. I don't care if a player is caught, Sean, making bets, he should get an automatic 1-year ban. You tell you why. When you're making the type of money that these guys are earning, even those, I'm not talking about the guys on 100, 200, 300 grand a week, even the people who are on 30 grand, 20 grand a week, and you're making, it's Mike Dean versus Aston Villa. Thanks, guys.
Hang about. Is this what we're talking about?
Good.
Hang on for a second. Let me just make sure it's not copyrightable. Is this what we're talking about here?
It's an old game. Hopefully it's not. Hang on, where is it?
Okay. Hang on. Let's do that again. So there's the geezer. He's playing the play on. Yeah. No, he's not celebrating. He kind of is. I don't know about that. That's ridiculous.
It was laughable. I'm sure there's more to that one. I'm sure they show again. Here we go. Look, here we go. Did you see the jump? Yeah. Get in there!
Oh, wait, what's this one here? Look at that one. Look at that one. What's this one here? That one looks dodgy. That's not Tottenham. That's someone else. Look at this. Look at this one here. This next one. This one here. Oh, he's fucking hell. Maybe he is. That's Tottenham as well in purple and yellow, isn't it?
I can't remember that one. Can't see, but. He's pretty obvious.
That last one is fucking brilliant, by the way. Look how angry he is. That was fucking brilliant. Yeah. He's fuming. He's saying, oh, for fuck's sake.
See, so you know, look, it's human nature. You know, you can say you're you're not biased. You don't have any affiliation to a club or what have you. But I'm sure they all watch football. But that was that was a very funny incident. It's one that I sort of remember back then. And I think to myself, there are a lot of Mike Deans out there, and we had that disgusting creature who's got done for something else. I'm not even going to mention his name for all the things he was doing with Jurgen Klopp, right? Didn't like Jurgen.
They're human beings, mate. They're human beings. They're corruptible.
Correct. But the Mike Dean compilation. I'm glad I brought that to you. I'm glad Sean found the clip.
That's fucking brilliant. I've never seen that before. That's absolutely hilarious. Like the first one, I was like, I don't know. He's just doing this. He's doing like the play on a little bit too long, and he's kind of like, kinda. The second one was a little bit like, yes. The third one was clear as day. Oh, for fuck's sake! Absolutely sensational stuff. I'll have to go check into that one. Listen, mate. Yeah, we'll move on. We've been half an hour on the corruption topic. Look, it's a story we're going to follow. But like, if it's happening somewhere, it's happening everywhere, in my opinion, Johnny.
Yeah, no, 100%. And guys, I was just going to say, if you guys, I know Foxy always comes up with stuff, but we love you guys in the chat. Coming up with info as well and filling us in. Like, I was trying to remember, it was Mike Dean and it was Get Villa. If you have a story that you uncover and you'd like us to have a go at it or talk about it, then by all means, throw it into the chat. And if we've missed it, by all means, we'll do that. Sean, this thing now, the chat headline news now about Semenyo, it looks now that nobody can run the risk of waiting to summer to sign Semenyo. First, Liverpool declared their hand, Man City declared their hand, and Spurs. We're monitoring. They're probably dealing. We're monitoring usual Spurs stuff now. But if you are Semenyo, where do you go, Sean? I mean,
Liverpool.
It's Liverpool, right? Yeah, I think we're agreed on that. We're agreed.
He's not coming to Tottenham.
And
I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed. It's one of those things where you buy a lottery ticket. Yeah, you got to be in it to win it, but you don't expect. You put your name in the hat, give him a call, give his agent a call. Any chance we can offer you this? We can make you that. You'd be playing minutes. But for me, I think there's still 2 or 3 clubs that are looking for left wingers, and most of those clubs are bigger than us in the pecking order. So, but there's enough talent out there, Johnny. Whereas a Tottenham fan, you can still land on a very good player, and everybody else can get theirs as well.
Yeah, I think the thing is, for some strange reason, he seems to be playing out on the right-hand side at the moment, Semenyo. And, the last 3 or 4 games, he hasn't been, as hot. I mean, all right, he missed the penalty, but I think, I think that, I think sell Salah. If I was Liverpool, I'd get rid of him now. Get all the money you can from Saudi Arabia and use that money to go and buy yourself 2 bloody centre backs and a right winger potentially as well. Semenyo, I can't see him going to Man City. I just can't see it. No, I can't see it. No. I mean,
City don't need a left winger. They've got Semenyo. Sorry, they've got Doku and they've got Savio, right? So they're fine. Arsenal, they think they need a left winger. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Whatever. I think they've got enough talent out there. They've got Eze, they've got Trossard, they've got Martinelli. But if they are looking for a top draw player, then one of those 2 has got to leave. That also brings back in the cyclicality of that. Of when one comes in, one has to go, and they're all top players. In the Premier League, I don't know why. I mean, Chelsea are linked with everybody all the time, but I genuinely can't get my head around why it is that anyone would go to Chelsea right now if you're a top winger when you've got players like Garnacho and Jamie Gittins that are there as well. It's just madness. And if they were to go and sign a Rodrigo, for example, or someone like that, then doesn't one of the other 2 or 3 players that play left go, let me go then, bro? Like, why did I come here? And eventually, by the way, that model is going to piss people off. Like, players are not going to go there all the time if they know that they're like the flavour of the month for a minute. It's the flavour of the minute at Chelsea. You know, that it can't carry on because people, like, players are not going to end up, they're just going to end up going, I've seen it. I've seen it happen 17 different times in the right wing position, the left wing position, the striker position. People will sign for them, and then suddenly they're yesterday's news. It's literally like a 4-year-old with a toddler with a toy. Like, I liked you, I wanted it, now I don't anymore. Nicholas Jackson, it's happened to him. It will happen to Liam Delap. It will happen to Garnacho or Jamie Gittins. It will happen to Pedro Neto. This thing will keep happening, Johnny. So I don't think the Chelsea story continues.
They just want it all. But at the end of the day, realise we don't really want it all. And like, well, let's sell it on. Capture the market, buy an asset. I called them eBay during the summer because they were just...
And you're right to call them eBay.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I've got a video for that. I think I've got a video.
We did do an eBay FC video for Chelsea. Have you got it there?
To have a sugar daddy to buy me lovely things. Another player, please, oh daddy. What will tomorrow bring?
Yeah, sugar daddy, eBay. Look, I think you know. Could you imagine if they sold Mo Salah, which I believe they should now? And then they brought in Rodrigo on loan, even though he's not leaving and he is leaving. It's up and down like a yo-yo.
Why would Rodrigo stay, mate?
Well, look,
he only stayed in the summer because he was promised he'd get minutes, and he hasn't got any minutes.
He hasn't got any. Look, it's the story coming out of Madrid. It changes every 2 minutes. Okay, so I expect that one to be another one of bullshit unless something serious happens. Madrid not having the best of time at the moment, Sean. I don't know if there's a lot of infighting. They're not getting the great results that they should be getting right now with all those players. But imagine if they got Semenyo on one side and they got Rodrigo on the other. One to buy and one to sell. They need to go and buy. They need to go and buy centre backs. That's really what they desperately need to do above everything else. But could you imagine if, for example, Saudi football took Bruno and Salah this summer or this January for them to fund January? All the clubs saying we're not going to spend money in January. It's a difficult month to operate. But we've seen this before. When Spurs wanted to sign Luis Diaz, and instead of waiting for the summer, Spurs thought they'd nip in and buy him in the January transfer window. And Liverpool, whose plan was to buy him in the summer, nipped in and suddenly found the money and did the deal. And a great deal it was too. Can imagine him playing for Spurs. And I think there's a bit of that now. I think there's a bit of 2 or 3 clubs maybe in a panic mode that the player they've identified that they desperately need could go to another club, whether it's a Mark Gahey going to Chelsea or a Mark Gahey going to Man United or to a Bayern or whatever. They're trying to maybe get in now before the players go. What do you think?
I think that's a common theme, mate, isn't it? I think a lot of teams think that I think Tottenham are guilty of it. I think Tottenham are guilty of thinking that, or at least under Daniel Levy, are thinking that they have leverage in a certain situation, and that there's no that they sort of guilty of not considering the threat of other people that are also trying to get in there and have conversations. Like, you might have a conversation with an agent, and the agent saying, yeah, our player's really interested, and so they take that as gospel. And they go, okay, so then we'll wait. Now we know that the agent's giving us the green light. Then we've got that ability. Now we're going to just go and spin some plates. But in reality, the agent is probably saying the same thing to 15 other clubs as well. And then all of a sudden you pick up the phone to say, yeah, we'd like to pull the trigger on that. And the agent says, oh yeah, sorry, nah, he's gone elsewhere. So it's a fascinating game. That's why one of the reasons I love transfer windows so much, because it's such an unbelievably interesting, insight into negotiations, and the fact that there's always so many different sort of clubs and teams and players and tactics and like chicanery and shithousery, whatever that's taking place. I genuinely do think though, Johnny, like in the summer, we were saying that the window was fairly wet for the first time in a few years in the striker market. Not so much in the striker market now, but I still think in the left winger market, for the teams that have got the money to be able to drop big money on players, big like 200 grand a week plus sort of salaries, you don't get many of them outside of the Premier League. In the Premier League, you've got a few, and I think all of them are looking for a left winger. But there also happens to be a fairly decent amount of talent out there, and that's why I said a minute ago, even though I'd love to have Keenan Yildiz, or I'd love to have Rodrigo, or I'd love to have Semenyo, or I'd love to have Iliman and Dye, not as much, or I'd love to have Malik Fofana. There's 4 or 5 or 6 players in the left wing spot, Antonio Nusa, that you could probably convince to come to the Premier League, and there's probably only 2 or 3 teams, and you have to respect the hierarchy.
Yeah,
there's probably 2 teams above us in the logical kind of pecking order that are looking for left wingers, but there are 5 different players out there that I would be more than happy to have. So that's why I sit there and say, despite it being fairly difficult in January for Tottenham to do business, like for anyone to do business, I would still be very unforgiving if we didn't get a left winger in January, because we have money, we have wiggle room in the budget, and there are enough players out there. Even knowing that we are competing with Liverpool and Arsenal for certain things where you're probably going to come up second best, there's still enough talent out there for them to get theirs and for us to have ours.
Tell me something, Sean. Do you think, I was thinking about this the other day, there was a moment in time with Spurs when we had Harry Kane and we had Heung-min Son, when we were finishing second, third, for this club to kick on, where we really were a club competing in the Champions League that could have drawn these top players, and for this club to kick on. We were part of the so-called Super League, right? Failed Super League. I mean, I was as shocked as anyone that we were even part and parcel of those conversations. But I feel now, having lost Harry Kane, having lost Heung-min Son, and seen the rise of middle football, I think middle ground football has risen its game. I think, the bottom lot have moved up, and the middle lot have moved up, and Spurs have sunk back into the sort of the Aston Villas and the Newcastles, and maybe even below that in our current state, where
Something below Newcastle and Villa in what regard?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I would have put us at that moment in time where we were for 4 or 5 years under Poch, delivering, Champions League performances, second, third, second, that was an opportunity for Spurs to be attracting the high value players, which we didn't do. We went for bargains. We tried to cut corners. What I'm saying to you is now we're in a situation where we are theoretically at the moment looking to spend the money in the January and summer windows to move on to buy the big players. Are we now, because we've sunk down that sort of list into the sort of chasing pack of 6 to 8, that it's much more difficult for us to sign those players now than it would have been had we been in that position to sign them 4 or 5 years ago, when we really were competing at the top end of the table.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah.
Because the hierarchy you're talking about, we have slipped from that hierarchy that we were potentially at.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was a false dichotomy anyway, mate. Like I say, I've always said this. I think that getting to the Champions League final and not winning it was the worst thing that could ever happen to Tottenham Hotspur.
About in the league, though, I was talking about the league, and we were in the
league as well. Like, it was a momentary period in time, and yeah, we have definitely regressed. 100% we have, but we also got there at the same time as we were moving into a new stadium, and then there's just financial consequences of that transition that that you can either like appreciate or ignore. If you want to ignore them, then you can always find a reason to bemoan the situation that we didn't take advantage of it. If you want to appreciate them, or even if you don't understand them, but you listen to people that do, and there's everybody out there, there's a financial expert, the Simon Jordans of this world, that like people like myself who have a little bit more insight into those things, people like yourself as well, than the average fan. Like, there's a reason why some people lean the way they do, and there's a reason why others don't. And it's people want to cherry pick the opinions that they have and fit the narrative. If you want to disregard all that stuff around the timing, the 2019 timing, and say, why couldn't we kick on? Or there is a massive elephant in the room in that conversation that everyone thinks is irrelevant, and it isn't irrelevant. We took on £1 billion of debt, right? So like it was a fortunate or a very unfortunate set of circumstances that happened to materialize at the same time. And for me, yes, in an ideal world, we would have been able to go and buy those players. Like we didn't not sign a player for that 18-month period, Johnny, for no reason at all. There was a reason, but no one gives a shit about the reason when they want to throw daggers towards the guy at the top. Everyone likes a boogeyman.
Hang on a minute. I'll not put words in my mouth because that's not what I'm
not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm saying
what I'm saying is we talk about hierarchy. We're talking about hierarchy, and what I'm trying to say is Spurs' hierarchy, place in that hierarchy, has slipped. Whatever the reason, our place in the hierarchy has slipped to the stage where you and I are having this conversation where Semenyo from Bournemouth wouldn't come to Spurs because we are deemed in that pecking order not the right fit for someone like Semenyo. There are
but we're only slipped for him relative to people that were always ahead of us anyway.
Yeah, I think there are teams that
Maybe a player that would join Newcastle or Aston Villa ahead of Tottenham. If we were both fighting for it. Arsenal, United, City, Liverpool and Chelsea. Chelsea and City, mainly because of their recent success, which for the most part, we're going to hopefully find out very soon, but the draw and the brand that they've created and cultivated is in no small part based on, if true, the allegations of cheating that they have utilised to build their successes that have created a legacy and a brand. The other three teams, this is the point I've always made, the other three teams have always been bigger than Tottenham Hotspur in the draw and the pecking order. And if we're talking about that specific 2 or 3 year period around 2018 to 2020, whatever, you could make the argument that yes, we've dropped from there, but you could also equally make the argument that we happen to have a very short-term lift above our pecking order relative to where we normally sit in the zeitgeist.
I just think that over the period, whatever the reason being, that we have slipped in the pecking order, and therefore it is difficult for us to eat at the dining table. We are not first course, we aren't first sitting, should I say. We aren't there for the first sitting. We are maybe second or third sitting. I'm saying that we're on an equal playing field, probably getting players from Newcastle and Aston Villa at this present moment in time. Whether our football lifts and our performances lift and we do better, then we become more attractive, the more successful we become, obviously. But there are players that have gone to Newcastle over Spurs. But look, I'm not putting Spurs down. I'm just saying, there are players that you and I have looked at and wish we would have had. Look, I'll be brutally honest with you.
Such as?
Right, the two players that I wanted, right, okay, for a long, long time, both didn't come in the summer because we are lower in the pecking order than Arsenal, obviously. And those were
we've always been lower in the pecking order than Arsenal.
Well, there was a moments where we were finishing above Arsenal.
Moments.
No, but there was a period.
You always regress to the mean, mate. This is why. Just quickly.
4 years. 4 years we finished above them.
4 years and 100, right? But this is why it's interesting. Like you do always naturally regress to the mean. People disregard the XG and the XGA, the XG against, right? But if you actually look at the history of XG, when not on a player, but sometimes on a player thing, most of the time on a player thing, but on a team thing, if a team is scored 20 goals in 15 games or in 10 games, 20 goals in 10 games, and the XG of that team is 15, and they've just outperformed, and the XG against them, they've only conceded 5 goals, but they should have conceded 10. Go back and check the history of XG since it's been in a thing. Teams always regress back by the end of the season towards a closer correlation to the expected goals for and the expected goals against. There are moments where teams get lucky. There's a moment where a team scores a worldie, but generally speaking, if you have, hang on to me, if you happen to, if the XG is here and you happen to be here, or the XG against is here and you happen to be here, you're conceding fewer goals than you probably should be relative to the chances scored, chances that are afforded them. Or if you're scoring more goals than you, or fewer goals than you realistically should be, by the end of the season, it always regresses closer to the mean. And that is an example why, again, not to make this about Tottenham, try not to, but Tottenham right now are the number one team with the highest differential from their expected goals to their actual goals. They've scored more goals than they should have done, and they've conceded far fewer goals than they should have done. And that is why we spoke about this for 2 hours last night on Spurs 5, why people that are defending what we're doing right now and saying, why are you complaining we're fifth in the league? Well, if what we're doing continues, there will be a regression back to where we should be. We are conceding fewer goals than we should be, and we're scoring more goals than we should be relative to the expected outcomes.
Where do we sit, Sean? Right, you've sort of diversed. Where do you think we sit in the pecking order, in the hierarchy, is what I'm asking.
About sixth.
You think six? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's the top 5 teams that are three of them have always been more successful, and 2 of them are the Johnny come latelys over the last 15 years, Chelsea and City. After that, it's probably Tottenham. Then it's probably Aston Villa and Newcastle, and I think it's close between those 3. I think the gap has closed massively.
That's what I'm saying.
The gap has closed massively, but I still think that Tottenham have got a bigger draw than Newcastle and Villa. Generally,
well, that would be biased because we're Spurs fans. But my point is that I think the middle ground has raised its game. You know, you look at Sunderland.
100%.
Yeah, the middle ground has raised its game, closing that gap on the top 6 who are separating themselves away from the rest of the league. I believe that Spurs are probably 6 to 8 in hierarchy currently. I'd like to see us go back into a solid 100%. We are top 6, top 5. But I'm not sure how long that's going to take. So I'm wondering.
The only way you get back into the top 5 consistently is for, in my opinion, is for there to be. I've said this 1,000 times. I think there has to be a change in the rules. I've always been consistent on this. The rules are not made to be. Do not support a team like Tottenham who do it organically, or a team like Newcastle, despite all of their unbelievable wealth that their owners have. They're limited by their ability to spend money. And Aston Villa are a team that they were relegated. They were in the Championship for 3 years ago, right? 4 years ago. But they've got owners that are punching, right? Punching. And look at the problem they got themselves into. Yeah. But there has to be a resetting of the rules, Johnny, where the rules actually mean something. And we've spoken about this since I've known you. The rules are the biggest problem in football. The inability to set coherent rules that are enforceable, that everybody can live by, and there's no wiggle room to dance through it. It's just madness. And until that gets solved, there will always be the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And Tottenham have, but don't act like they have. And other teams have owners that definitely do, but their teams shouldn't behave like they do because of the rules. The rules don't pertain to that.
I think we'll find out, in January, in the summer. I'm going to give them till the summer, but Sully makes the point: are we number 6 because of being based in London? Does that give us that 6th place over a Newcastle?
No, we're the 6th most successful team in trophies over the last 75 years. We're the 6th wealthiest team. We're in the Premier League in terms of revenue. We're like London's a part of it, but I think it's probably minor. We are where we are, mate. Like we're around the Chelsea level, but the Chelsea level in terms of revenue, in terms of, but Chelsea have just got ambitious owners that are willing to kind of step through the loopholes, and Tottenham haven't had that ownership in the past. And I think that our ownership in the past were hoping that the rules would tighten that shit, and it hasn't proven to be the case. Aston Villa don't have the revenue sources, but they have ownership that are willing to do what they can do, but they're still limited. And Newcastle United will eventually will be a massive problem for teams like Tottenham. They already are. But in terms of the revenue spend and all that stuff, that they will be. In 5 years' time, Newcastle will have an 80,000-seater stadium and they're all that crap, right? So
that's
like,
one thing. It's possible that Newcastle, if we don't sort ourselves out, and the Newcastle and Aston Villa will gravitate above us. Do you want to do the super chats, Sean?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about them. Adam Horlock, big up to you, my man. He says they need to put some of these people in prison and set a precedent for the rest of Europe and crack down on this. Otherwise, it will ruin the game. Are we still talking about betting, aren't we? This is back in the betting thing.
Yeah.
Big up to you, Adam, mate. Thank you so much, buddy. You're a massive you're an ever-present feature in all of our streams right now, Adam. Really appreciate your loyalty to the channels, my man. Big up to you. And we've got a super sticker train that is starting with you know who. Mr. Dick Choo himself. He's always here. He's always supporting. And we very much appreciate you, Dino. Thank you very much, thank you much, Dino. Appreciate you, my man. And Blake is also here from America. Big up to you, Blakey boy. He's also thrown in a $2 super sticker. Big up to you as well. I wish I could actually see what these super stickers are, boys, but I appreciate you guys very much for your support of the channel.
Just quickly, Chris Hintow, I think it's Hintonio. It's got an asterisk there. 12 Manchester refs involved in corruption and cheating coming soon. Not sure what that is, but we'll remember you when you come out, when you, if any of that news comes out. Newcastle, just a bit of breaking news. Newcastle are battling European giants to sign AZ Alkmaar's Keith Schmidt, this midfielder. I think we saw him last season, Sean, and there was quite a lot of noise about him. But he seems to have kicked on a bit. He's only 19.
Who's the player, sorry?
Keith Schmidt. I'm sure
Keith Smith. Keith Smith, yeah. Cracking player. Player.
So he
played player, really good player. Ginger bollocks. He's the new De Bruyne.
Yeah, exactly. Plays a Dutch under 21. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Newcastle. Where do they sit in the pecking order?
Well, look, you can make the argument. You always talk about Adam Wharton going to Palace, right?
Yeah.
For young players, if Adam Wharton at the time had been targeted by City, do you think that Adam Wharton would be playing football as regularly as he is? And do you think he would have chosen Crystal Palace?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. You know, you look at players that come into the Manchester United team. What's his name? Who came from Wolves? And what's his name now? Fucking hell, it's driving me mad. Mateus Nunes came from Wolves as a midfielder, attacking midfielder, really skillful. Really wasn't happening for him at all. In and out the team, hardly got a game. Potentially playing Rodri's position, it didn't happen, and he's ended up as a right back. With this manager, you could end up anywhere just because he's bought you as what you think you are. You know, you could be out the team for a year signing for Pep, so you could be quite right that he might not have got a game, but we might have seen him as the new Rodri, as backup for Rodri.
What about that guy that was actually supposed to be the new Rodri? The guy who ended up going on loan to West Ham, ex-Leeds player. I forget his name.
Oh, yeah, but he was fucking shocking. Yeah, I know, but
he wasn't a bad player, though. He wasn't a bad player. He was a very good player at Leeds. Played for England in the Euros, right? He's a very, very good player. What's his name?
It escapes me, but he was shit. I actually thought he was shit. Nico Gonzalez, mate, is doing an altogether different job. Basically, he's doing a very good job.
Right, Calvin Phillips.
Shocking,
I don't think Calvin Phillips was a bad. I think Calvin Phillips was a very good player, but he went to Man City and he never got a chance. And then he let himself go. Whatever, all that money, whatever else happened, right? Had he not gone to Manchester City, would he have gone if he'd gone to Crystal Palace, if he'd gone to a Brentford?
Mate, couldn't do it at West Ham. Couldn't even do it at
Yeah,
West
but
Ham.
that's after the fact, right? That's after the rejection from City. That's after the lacking confidence. That's after the money setting. Had he left Leeds, or had he stayed at Leeds, or had he gone to a team like Palace, would he have kicked on? You don't know. It's a different timeline of reality. But Calvin Phillips was not a bad player. He was very, very good at
mentality, right? Football is about mentality. You can have all the skill, but if you do not have the mentality, you will never be successful for a long period of time in football. There are players with God-given talent who have shit mentality, who put it down the drain, or who do not have the drive and determination to kick on and continue, whether it's Jadon Sancho or a João Felix or a Dele Alli. There's lots. And then you've got the players who've worked on their game and dedicated themselves to the game. Players like Eze, players like Harry Kane, who worked and worked and worked and worked on their game tirelessly to become the better player. Those are mental monsters. Those are the players that stay in the game longer than anyone else. Lionel Messi, unbelievable God-given talent, but he has the mental application. So does Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, you've got to have the skill and the mental fortitude. You've got to have both. That's my opinion, basically. And we've seen so many. And like for me, yes, it was unfortunate, but hey, look at all the players that are let go at 16, 17, 18 from academies who have to go all the way down the leagues, Sean, but fight their way back. Like someone like an Alan Smith, who was at Spurs, let go of Spurs, went all the way down the leagues, came all the way back up, captain for Bournemouth in the Premier League. Sometimes you've got to go back.
No, I hear that. But are we saying that Dele Alli wasn't a good player because he didn't make it?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said you can be a good player, but you cannot have the mental fortitude to keep it going. That's what I'm saying.
My point is that Calvin Phillips was a very good player at Leeds, and then he went to Manchester City, where there was a few things that happened. One is he got a massive contract. He got paid a lot of money, a huge amount of money. Two is he wasn't selected. Three, maybe he got lazy, whatever else. A lot of other things that happened. And my point was to say that Calvin Phillips was a shit player, I think is ridiculously harsh. He got into the England team playing as the DM in 2 different tournaments whilst playing at Leeds. Had he not chosen to gone to Manchester City and had that new environment that obviously fucked him up on some level, had he gone somewhere else, sideways, backwards, whatever else, it may have worked out. Shit. Johnny, I've got to take this call, mate. I'm really so sorry. This is the doctor's. Sorry, mate. Can you carry on?
Yeah. Listen, personally, guys, I don't believe he was a mental monster. I mean, poor him. He signed a big contract and he lost his way. There are people out there who are fighting to put food on the table. Listen, I'm just saying that, for me, the fact you've gone to a big club and, it hasn't worked out, that's unfortunate. But you've had a chance to go to other clubs and you've not performed there. Whose fault is that? If you have the skill and you have the dedication to do it and to put your game right, you can call Soul Sniper Gaming. You can call bad call, and I'm being silly. It's my opinion. That's what football's all about. It's about opinions. If we all had the same one, life would be boring. But hey ho, that's my opinion on it anyway. I think there's plenty of players out there who have shown that put their mental determination together and to make themselves top professionals. Right, let's have a look. Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal. Everyone thought he was finished. He's never given up. Mental attitude. Again, now looks like he's set to stay at Arsenal despite Premier League clubs inquiring about him signing on loan in January. Jesus says on returning to Palmeiras, when I feel the time is right to return to Palmeiras, I'll decide that with Arsenal. But we're talking about a player who's been out for 9 months and is now fighting to get back into the team. And there are journalists who are talking without any basis whatsoever, Coming back from such a complex surgery, it doesn't make sense for me to leave Arsenal now. So this is a guy that's determined to play football again at the highest level, right? He's not interested in anything else. But, you know, we shall see. We shall see. Harry Kane, again, the links of these players seem to change every day. Bayern Munich, despite links with Barcelona and a possible return to the Premier League, Harry Kane has now reportedly decided that he wants to stay at Bayern Munich beyond this season. Let's see what happens with that one. Let's move on to Chelsea. No shot, this one. Chelsea have been after goalkeeper Mike Maignan for quite a long time from AC Milan. They tried to do a deal in the summer, couldn't agree a fee. And he will become a free agent for a pre-contract in January. So I wouldn't be surprised, should I say, if he doesn't come in and seal that one off. Hang on 1 second, guys. Just bear with me. We're going to have a blank screen for 2 seconds. Don't you? Sorry, guys. Chelsea are ready to launch a club record transfer. I don't know if I believe this one, to Real Madrid for superstar Vinicius Jr. Amid ongoing doubts over the long-term future under new manager Xavi Alonso. How many players can have doubts about their future under Xavi Alonso, Sean? It seems
apparently several. Yeah, they all have, right?
I mean, could we find ourselves, despite, you know, courting him for quite a considerable amount of time, Xavi, that it might not be working out? Because he,
you know what it is? I don't know whether he's like, how old is he? Like 38, 37?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's got a history. He's played for the club.
I know,
you know,
yeah. But like, you got more egos in that Real Madrid dressing room than you'd have in a, you know, in the weirdest party that has a specific type of clientele. Like you have to manage that shit, and sometimes the only way to manage that shit is by having an incredible amount of experience. You know, like Ancelotti was fantastic, right? At just being able to kind of say, like, shut up, you know, like just I'm in charge here. But that sometimes that comes from experience, mate. You know, I think that, you know, managers like Will Still probably it's just the way it is. You know, if you're not that much older than people that are under your managerial kind of tutelage, sometimes people just look at you and go, "Fuck off, bro." And I can only imagine that might be happening a little bit with certain people at Real Madrid.
I mean, listen, I can understand it with Will Still. But I mean, what's he done, right? You know, he's gone to Southampton, it hasn't worked out. But come on, Alonso, Xabi Alonso.
I'm just saying in general, like forget about the individual person. In general, in life, like have you ever worked somewhere where you've got a boss that's younger than you?
Not personally, but I just think that if someone like Xabi Alonso has done it at Liverpool, done it at Real Madrid, done it at
he hasn't managed at those places though, is he? He's played at those places.
Oh no, but you should respect him for the player he was. If you're a footballer and you know the career, a fantastic career he had at Liverpool, Real Madrid, and then he's gone to Bayer Leverkusen and he smashed
it. He smashed it at Leverkusen for sure. I'm just saying. Listen, I don't know the answer, mate. I'm just saying that there's a possibility that there's so many egos at Real Madrid. And if you've got a guy that's making decisions, and he himself, whilst he did amazingly well at Leverkusen, like he doesn't have that many years of experience to draw upon in which to handle egos. And there may be also a little bit of pushback from the decisions that he does make with a relatively small sample size of experience, where he's not used to managing the egos. At Leverkusen, he wasn't managing players that are Galacticos. At Real Madrid, he is. I don't know have you seen that video? Sorry, just quickly. Have you seen that video that came out today of the Bayern Munich manager, Vincent Kompany, effing and blinding and screaming and shouting?
Burnley. That was at Burnley.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, apparently that's at Burnley. That happened at Burnley.
Okay,
right?
but similar sort of thing though, right? Like, is that the way? I mean, like some people go, that's a proper leader. Is it? Like maybe, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but to each their own, right? Like some people are going to respond very well to that. Other people are going to go, "Who are you fucking talking to like that to me? Don't talk to me like that. Who you fucking think you
No, but
are?"
this is the thing. It's trying to be all things to all people. A manager is about being all things to all people. You're going to have the ones that need to kick up the arse. You're going to have ones that if you say scream and shout at them, they're going to cave in.
Correct.
So
but I'm saying that players like Ancelotti that are 67 years old have got 35, 40 years of testing that.
As a manager,
who doesn't? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, Ancelotti was a fantastic footballer. For those that don't remember, who aren't old enough, Ancelotti was a fabulous footballer. You know, he's had a fantastic football career, fantastic career for Italy, and then you know he's gone on and had an incredible managerial career. And Xabi Alonso, so far, great Liverpool career, great Real Madrid career, fantastic managerial career so far in Bayer Leverkusen. He's gone there. Is this a step too far for him? You know, will he be the fallout guy come the day of judgment if Real Madrid don't win the title this year? And it's Barcelona, will he be the fall guy because he can't balance the egos? Look, we saw what happened with PSG when they had Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi. You know, can you imagine that dressing room, right? You can imagine. It just is unworkable, right? Unworkable.
I hear you on that. I don't know. You know, I don't know how it will figure itself out. But I definitely think that part of the kind of the puzzle, you have to consider that whilst listen, as far as like great players becoming great managers, I don't think there's any correlation. Gary Neville was a fantastic footballer, a fantastic player, was absolutely dog shit as a manager. Roy Keane, fantastic player, dog shit manager. There's loads and loads and loads of examples of top draw players that have gone into management. Wayne Rooney, right? There's loads of them that have fucked up. So I would say park that and just look at the managerial experience. And I would say Xabi Alonso smashed it at Leverkusen. He really did. He absolutely smashed it.
And broke
but going to Real Madrid is a different beast.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with the egos for the first time of that level and you don't have that many years of managerial experience, plus you have the potential conundrum of players looking at a guy that's not that much older and in some cases maybe younger than him, well, and he's trying to say, do it this way, do it that way, whatever, then there might be the kind of pushback and going, shut up, you donut. Like, you're the same age as me. Don't like, I'm not
Sean, he's 38, 40 years of age. I don't think Vinicius Jr. I mean, are we saying though that who should win this? Should it be the manager wins this and one of them has to go? Whether it's Rodrigo goes, Vinicius Jr., it ain't going to be Mbappe. You know, Bellingham.
Someone has to go anyway, mate, because they've got all these young kids that are chomping at the bit to come back. They've got Nico Paz, they've got Arda Güler, they've got Mastantuano. They have all these young players that are chomping at the bit for minutes, and they've got these older figureheads, not even that old necessarily, but some of these guys that are not happy with what they're getting. It's only going to get more difficult. So for me, I think regardless, you might end up like the sword might fall on Xabi Alonso, but the sword needs to also fall at some point on some of these players because they're not going to be happy playing 20% of minutes, and they shouldn't be. They're good enough to be playing 100% of minutes somewhere. Would you, Johnny, would you rather be, you know, like you said this yesterday, Matt Le Tissier, right? Would you rather be Matt Le Tissier or would you rather be, a forgotten participant in someone else in a team success that you're barely contributing to?
I mean, listen, the Matt Le Tissiers of this world is a rarity for one player to play that many years. Some people said it was a lack of ambition or a fear of going somewhere else, and other people looked at it as loyalty. I think it depends which way you look at it. I mean, would
you rather be a player that's wildly, forget about whether we say that his whole life, but I just mean, would you rather be a player that gets 100% of minutes at a team that is, you know, not in the top 5 teams in Europe, but you know you're going to play every minute, that you're fit and available, you're going to be a king in that squad, or would you rather be a pawn in the greatest chess game that there is?
Listen, if you believe in your ability, there's no reason why you should be a king and go there without the belief, the self-belief that you can be a king or a bishop or a queen or whatever.
Yeah, but if you're not getting the minutes, you're not getting treated like a king. Should you
but
move
you
on to
only
somewhere else?
know, you will only know. You can sit back in your career's finish and think about what might have been. I wonder what would have happened had I gone to do this, or what would have happened had I gone to Spain.
Yeah, but Vinny's been there. Rodrigo's been there.
Yeah, no, I'm just thought you asked me about Letizia, all right? So
No, I'm saying in this specific circumstance, Rodrigo has been at Real Madrid, but he's not getting enough minutes. Vinny Jr. is not. Vinny Jr. walked off the pitch saying, "Fuck it, I might as well leave. Fuck this place." Right? There was caught on camera or lip sync or whatever. Right, so he's already been there. He's been at the highest table, and he thinks he's a superstar. But there's other superstars, right, that want the minutes. I'm saying, is he better off? Is he better off just dropping to a team where he can be a superstar and no one questions his right to be a superstar? But at Real Madrid, his ego is harmed because there's other people that feel exactly the same way and that are potentially just as competitively justifiable in their minutes.
Listen, look, he's going to go to another club and be just as much of a nightmare as he is in the other clubs. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. He's going to be just as much of a nightmare because that ego will just be transferred to another club. He will think, he will just think, hang on just 1 second, Sean, 1 sec.
No worries, mate. Yeah, look, for me, if I'm Vinny Jr., I shouldn't, I mean, look, I'd love to be Vinny Jr., be amazing. But my point is that, like, sometimes what's more important, not even him so much, Rodrigo, you've got minutes, you want to play in the World Cup. For me, like, park your ego for 5 seconds. Your ego will be fulfilled when you go to another team that has a huge fan base, a nice stadium. You still got access to all of the big tournaments that you want to, and the competitions you want to play in. But in that environment, your ego is rubbed. Your ego is massaged. You are told you're the king, and there's nobody to take your minutes. Sometimes those, I don't know. For me, if these people have got monster egos.
Dickhead policy, Sean. I mean, if he went to Liverpool, for example, Vinicius Junior goes to a Liverpool or a Manchester City and he carries on in this mode, is that a disruptor for every team? Is it, does he put himself into a situation where, you know what, for the amount of money we're going to have to pay him and for all his bullshit, nah, it's okay. Do you then start making yourself into a hot potato that people think, you know what?
Possibly. But where's the hot potato if it, does Vinny Jr. come in and just become the superstar at Liverpool when Salah's time is over? Like,
no, he goes to Saudi.
Is there any problem? Is there any problem with Vinny Jr. being an egomaniac superstar in a team where he can be that and doesn't have to have people chomping at the bit for his minutes? Is there any problem with that?
Yeah,
it's only at Real Madrid where he's got people that are around him that want to play in that same position, the most oversaturated position in world football of talent, and where he sits there going, I want all the minutes. And there's somebody else who's got exactly the same personality saying, no, fuck you, I want the minutes.
No, earn the right.
That's where the conflict is.
Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Do the business. Knuckle your head down, get your head down, start performing on the pitch to make it a situation where the manager can't do anything other than play you because your skill and your performances are that high of a level that you can't be replaced. He will end up at Saudi, whether it's not next year or the year after, or whatever. He'll end up at Saudi where they'll fet him, and they will worship him and he will become that superstar. And that's what he will do. Yeah, the Tenerife Massive, Angeball. It's Tenerife behind me. That was last night's sunset out my window.
It's a beautiful sunset, mate. It's a beautiful sunset.
Beautiful.
Should we leave it there, Johnny? Come back tomorrow?
We can do. I think there was one that it seems to be Gazzetta dello Sport are, seriously saying that Kenan Yildiz contract talks with the club have just not gone anywhere.
He wants €6 million a year. They're willing to offer him 5 million. I mean, that's chump change, mate. That's 120 million euro, 120,000 euros a week, which is 100 grand a week. Like, he comes to the Premier League. Crystal Palace would pay that for him. Brentford would probably pay that for him. He could have his absolute choice pick.
Mate, look, when you're struggling, we knew that Juventus was struggling. They couldn't afford Kolomoani. They wanted to get rid of Vlahovic. Neither of the two things happened. So maybe it's a financial thing and they can't, they just cannot afford to do it. One more story before we go. Tottenham have called their interest in signing Juventus striker Dusan Vlahovic, who was expected to still be a target for them after they first looked at him during the window. Do you think that's double talk? We're not interested, and then come January, put in a bid? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm surprised that we suddenly called our interest. He wasn't very good last night, was he? I heard. I haven't seen the game. I heard he was terrible last night.
I didn't. I got to be honest with you. I didn't see the game. I watched the first half and a bit of the England game, and then I was out, so I didn't see it. Guys, if you're in the chat, please can you hit the like button, and really helps us with the algorithm, helps the channel grow. And if you're here for the first time, please tell us where you're from, who you support, and where you're from in the world, because we come from all over. Sean, have you got enough from, well, we know where Spurs OC's from, Orange County.
Yeah, big up to Spurs OC, saying, thanks, fellas, great show, great analysis. Appreciate you very much, my man. Thank you very much indeed. Johnny, I've got to jump, mate. I've just had a phone call from the doctors. I've got to sort it out. So,
it's all okay. Guys, thanks very much for your support, and we will see you soon. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from Johnny Boy. See you tomorrow, guys. Take care, as always. Bye.
Bye.